So let's look at H1s and paragraphs and other headings a little bit more in depth. Now, a paragraph is just kind of like a generic piece of text. You use a paragraph when you don't have a more specific element. And so we're going to go over the more specific elements in the further videos. But in this one, if you don't have a very specific element, your content doesn't have a specific purpose, then a paragraph is probably okay. So an H1 here, let me change this to dinosaurs. An H1 stands for heading level 1. That means that it's the primary heading on your website. In fact, an H1 should be considered the most important piece of content on your website. So here, this is the name of this page, dinosaurs. So it's an H1. Now, because it's the most important piece of content on your website, you should only ever have one H1. Now, we actually have 6 different levels of headings, H1 all the way through H6, and each of those means a subheading. So every HTML document should have an H1, and then we can have other headings as necessary. So maybe we want to split our document up into different segments. So we can have an H2 for meat eaters, and then we could have another H2 for plant eaters. Now H2 means that this heading is a subheading of H1. So if you're thinking about how you outline documents, this is a subheading of the H1. So within each of these elements, we could have other text. So let's say we have another paragraph in here, Tyrannosaurus, and what else? Carnotaurus. All right, and plant eaters. All right, so we've got 2 plant eaters, Tyrannosaurus and we've got some dinosaurs in here. So these dinosaurs, these text is underneath the heading H2, which is a subheading of H1. So if I add an H3, let's say I add it down here, like here, let's say it's features. Now this H3 is another subheading. So since it's an H3, that means it's the subheading of the H2 directly above it. So it's a subheading of this one. So this H3 is associated with this H2. So this technically means features of plant eaters. So we could have something like flat teeth, if I can spell teeth properly. Gentle. I don't know. I'm running out of ideas. So this H3 is a subheading of an H2. Now this H3, since an H3 is a subheading, it always is associated with the H2 directly above it. It's not associated with this H2 because there's another one in between. So if I wanted another subheading under here, I'd have to literally put it under here to create that association. So now this H3 is associated with the H2 above it, and it keeps going. So we can have an H4, which is a subheading underneath an H3. We have an H5, which is a subheading under an H4, and we have an H6, which is a subheading under that. So you always start with H1 on your page, and then you continue down the heading levels, choosing subheadings as necessary or not, going to a maximum of H6. That's all we have. We have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. So H6 is a subheading of H5, H5 a subheading of H4, H4 a subheading of H3, H3 subheading of H2, and H2 is a subheading of H1.